Welcome, everybody. Glad you could join us. How's everybody's garden going? I know in about a week or two, my front yard's going to be just amazing with all the Clarkia and lupin and not so many poppies this year, and interestingly enough.
This week, all of the geranium matarensi popped. So there are
Ah,
big purple bushes all around me.
how fun.
Went for a hike yesterday. There weren't very many flowers out, but the mousers are out at Edgewood.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I went to
Yeah.
Black Diamond Mines, and not big bush lupins they're just starting.
Yeah, they're just starting. Does it seem late or is it just me?
Well, I think we were earlier before, so I think it's probably on time. I don't think it's quite as going to be quite as much of a show as either last year or the year before, but we'll find out. I may be wrong.
I was hoping we could do a drive down to Carrizo Plain.
That would be fun. If anybody wants to open up their garden for a coffee in the garden, we'd love to see everybody's garden. So I might have mine open in the fall.
Oh, nice.
However, I do need some inspiration to get little projects done. That's always a good motivator. Well, welcome everybody to the Plant Forum, which is everybody sharing things that are in their gardens or things they want to share. So I want to thank Richard Stargeson, Mary Sue Eitner, Jeff Harder, Janet Hoffman, Daisy Ma, Beryl Golden, Kathy Anberg, and Charlotte Mason. We love seeing people's gardens, and we can also hopefully help identify or help with any problems. We've got a lot of people on, so hopefully we can all share and learn some stuff there. So first, Beryl Gardens in Richmond. Beryl has some of the species tulips, Clusiana variety Chrysantha. And Annie's Annual says the reliably long-lived self-propagating tulip for warm winter areas, hailing from the Middle East. The side-catching tulip starts flowering in early spring in full sun and will open up to reveal pristine bright yellow stars held above the perfectly gray-green leaves, and it'll top out about 1 foot. Naturalizing gardens, it often offsets and stolons, and will produce a very fine colony over time.
Love the look.
Yeah, well, it's nice when things just kind of pop up like daffodils in a lot of our gardens, or naked ladies or whatever, and they just show up when they're supposed to, right?
Exactly.
She also has this interesting fern in her garden, which I think is really fantastic. It's a maidenhair fern, and it looks kind of like the 5-finger. I found this Hespidulum, Mount Haleakala, on Plant Delight's website, and it kind of looked like it. Does anybody know what this particular one could be, or is familiar with it? I've never seen. That's pretty bright red foliage too.
So you didn't have time to show the sorry?
No, I didn't put those in.
I think that would be very helpful to ID also.
Okay, well, you want to tell us about this?
I've had it for years. I usually cut it back before the new growth starts, but you can see that this year I didn't do that. And I don't know what else there is to say about it, except it's reliable.
Where do you have it grown? It looks like it's in dappled shade, and do you have to water it a lot, or just keep it cool, or you're in Richmond, so you're a little bit cooler?
I really don't pay attention to it. It's in a spot where it only gets morning sun. Now I do water it, in the middle of the summer. I do give it some water. There's a lot of other plants in that bed.
Okay, so it gets regular water, and it evidently doesn't go dormant in the wintertime, but you usually cut it back, correct?
So I'm sorry, actually, you helped me remember. It doesn't go dormant. The one I thought it was goes dormant in the winter, and this one doesn't. And you can see for yourself all the last year's growth is still there.
Yeah. It's
So
really striking.
the fact that it doesn't go dormant, I don't know whether that has to do with where I live, but a lot of the adiantums, they say it goes dormant, and they don't give any comments about, like, well, maybe it won't go dormant in certain areas where the winters are not that cold.
Yeah.
They just say it goes dormant in the winter. It disappears in the winter and then it comes back. And that's not true for this one.
Yeah. Well, our native one goes dormant in the summertime when it gets no water, but The one that looks like it on the internet, which I don't know if this is it or not, but like I said, it's the closest I could find, is from Mount Haleakala in Hawaii up at 5,000-foot elevation, which I thought was really interesting. But it might not be this one, but
Well, if you're interested, I will try to do some more searches on the Sori themselves to see whether or not that helps me identify it.
okay. And so Mary Sue Eichner is without microphone or camera, so I'm going to be narrating this, but Mary Sue is a big contributor to Pacific Bulb Society with pictures and information and propagation and all sorts of information. So if you go on their site, which is a wonderful resource, you'll see her name all over the place. But so these are grown in pots, and so she got kind of separated them out from ones that she has in pots, and I assume she goes in and out of her greenhouse or can move them around, and then also in the ground. So this is Oxalis obtusa and Tulipa clusiana, which you had the Chrysantha, the yellow version that Beryl showed. And it's not only some Oxalis obtusa forms, but there's a Michael Vassar numbered Oxalis obtusa MV 7085 with the Tulipa clusiana bending over it. So I assume it's this, well, I don't know which one it is. Since this is the obtusa, the kind of apricot-y color, I would maybe assuming it's the pink one. Does anybody know that has a microphone?
I got some Michael Vassar's various numbers at the last bulb exchange, and mine are all that kind of peachy orange color.
Okay, so maybe you had Michael Vassar. Okay, so do you know?
He had a bunch of different numbers on the bulb exchange, and
Oh, fun.
I got
Where
two
is he
different numbers, and
located?
they're both kind of an orange color, I recall.
Okay. So so maybe this one on the left is as well. I don't know. It was only labeled as obtusa. What?
Yeah, the pink one and the yellow one might be. I don't know for sure.
Okay. And where's Michael Vassar located?
No idea.
Okay. Thank you, Janet.
I can look him up. He might be on the list.
Michael Vassar spoke to us many, 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 many years ago. And
where
he
is
died
he?
of cancer about a year and a half or 2 years after that. And he worked in LA.
Oh,
He
okay.
worked for Huntington and had the collection in LA. And he told me that, I mean, I maybe nobody remembers his talk, but I was so fascinated with Oxalis, which of course was the nemesis for everybody. Because of Press Capri, everybody thinks all Oxalis are something you don't put in the ground. But
I don't think that. I have a bunch of different Oxalis in my front yard too.
I love Oxalis. I even
I
have
do too.
Purpurea, and it covers the ground and keeps the weeds down in the winter. So that's a good thing. At any rate, he had quite a collection. It was very sad when he died.
Oh, he's gone. I guess I would explain why he's not on their list.
Right. He died probably close to 25 years ago.
Oh, okay. A long time ago.
Collection keeps going, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's some other South African irids, which I wasn't familiar with the irids term. Is that iris types or?
Gladiolus tristis. I think the irises include the gladiolus, the irids, the family, whatever it is. Yeah, it would have to be that way. And so what is your question? Because
I just wasn't familiar with the term irids.
So it's the family, I believe.
I don't know what the current family name is, but they used to call it the Iridaceae. So
okay, so she has Gladiolus tristis.
I just looked it up. It is Iridaceae, and Babiana belongs to that group too. I just did a quick search on Pacific Bulb Society under irids.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay, so the Gladiolus tristis, winter rain and summer dry, slightly fragrant at night.
By the way, I grow it in a watered garden and it does just fine.
Oh, all year round, huh? Interesting. Okay.
Well, it doesn't stay green, but it
survives.
It comes back every year.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, then we have Romulia, diversiformis. It's the same subfamily as crocus, and MP DeVos of the Pacific Bulb Society says it grows in moist or
waterlogged dolerite and clay in the winter rainfall area of South Africa.
Thank you. Okay, and then the Spiraxis hybrids, and evidently they prone to hybridize, and they often grown and bloom in 1 or 2 years from seed. If you let the bees pollinate them, you get unusual, beautiful colors. I saw.
Yeah, I have that Spiraxis. Somebody gave me seeds of it probably 20, 25 years ago. And it's reseeded in my yard. And some of them have the yellow eye like that, and some of them don't. It's interesting. But basically, they're all seeds that have sort of come up around the yard.
Nice, nice. Okay, and then Mary Sue grows a number of tulipa species in pots, unpotted when dormant and left in paper bags, and then pre-chilled for 6 weeks and planted in December. Some of these may not need so much chilling, and she's experimenting with some in containers sunk into other containers in a raised bed and not repotted every year. Tulip clusiana is the candy stick tulip, one that used to be tulip chrysantha or tulip chrysantha clusiana variety. Chrysantha is now included in the species. Okay, so that helps with our first slide there. What was known as tulip linifolia and may still be sold under that name is now included in tulip.
Bartolini.
I think there's another thing down there too.
It says, I've grown the yellow form of that for many years, but the flowers aren't open yet. So apparently there's a yellow form of Tulipa Bartolini also.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Janet.
I would say grow Clusiana in a pot or be careful with it in the ground. I mean, I had it in the ground for a number of years and it did okay. It stayed well behaved, but the last 2 wet winters, it's like taken over my front yard. It's battling with the oxalis actually.
Interesting. In a good way or bad way?
Your front yard, Janet.
Okay. Western Hort might have a garden tour.
We might have to talk afterwards. Okay, South African irids growing in the ground. So these are the ones that she says is the ground. And she's in Gualala, so remember that she's up in the north coast. These South African irids, these and the next 2 slides are growing in the ground. There are more freesias, like linii, subspecies alba flowering than I've seen in a long time. And she had some septic repair work that she had to remove some shrubs and such so that they may be getting more light is what she's thinking. They're wonderfully fragrant. Morea aristata is critically endangered in the wild. Okay, so I think that's on the next slide. Sorry. There we go.
I'm this freesia, and I agree with her. Miners are becoming almost as bad as the oxalis, but again, I love them and they disappear. So
this one.
That freesia. I thought it was just called freesia alba, but obviously it's freesia linii, subspecies alba. And mine actually have started crossing with my hybrid ones because some are bluer now, or yellower now. But I kind of like all of that. So
I wonder if that's the alpine freesia that Ted Kipping gave some of us.
I don't remember where I got mine.
And I don't remember the yellow in the throat, but boy, it sure is prolific.
Yeah, I have some that are more yellow, and I don't know if it crossed or maybe the yellow just expressed itself more. I don't know.
Mark, are you pulling them out in your garden or do you love them as well?
Oh, no, I'm letting them go. They're so small. They're like 5 or 6 inches tall.
Nice.
I think that belongs anywhere, wherever it wants.
Okay, so here's the Morea aristata. It's critically endangered in the wild, but happy in her garden. It's like little floating, I don't know, helicopter kind of things. Beautiful. And the Hesperantha cuculata. These are wonderfully fragrant, open late in the afternoon and get more fragrant as the night progresses. Anybody have any other experience with these?
Wish I did.
I know that little Morea is cute, huh?
I have some I got either seeds or bulbs of, but they haven't bloomed yet.
Oh, well, that's fun. Something to look forward to. And then South African irids growing in the ground still. These last 2 Spiraxis species are volunteers after years of growing bulbs in pots. Many of them find their way into the ground. Spiraxis elegans and Spiraxis villosa. Little dainty one in a wild character there with all the little yellow spots ring around the rosy there, huh? She wanted to include some native bulbs since Kip is going to talk about Calicortis, but Scalliopus, Bigelovii, Trillium ovatum, and Tritelia clementina are finished, and most of the other ones I grow are not yet flowering. But I have a couple of erythroniums in flower. In my raised beds, I often end up with more than one bulb in a pot buried in a pot. Sometimes that is planned, and other times bulbs and other things make their way into pots and create a surprising combinations. Some pleasing, but not always. Here is Bellavallia dubia with blue buds, a Mediterranean species in the hyacinth family, flowering with the Erythronia multiscapedium. And I also see Clarkules and the South African Gizora in the iris family. I think that's the next.
I think it's called Geyseriza.
Thank you. So the Erythronium and the Belvalia is in this pot. Beautiful foliage.
So the erythronium is the white one?
Yes.
Oh, it's
With that
beautiful.
fantastic foliage.
Beautiful. Oh, beautiful.
And the Belvalia is looking almost the Mascari looking little guy in the middle. Because I'll show you,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go right in the middle. Anybody else have experience growing these guys?
I wish I did.
I saw lots of erythronium up in Oregon, which tells me I'm not going to grow it in Campbell.
Yeah.
Well, evidently,
right.
this one is endemic to the foothills of the South Cascades and Sierra Nevada.
Yeah, but northern Sierra
Yeah.
Nevada probably.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Yeah, I saw the distribution list when I looked that up there. And the South African, how you pronounce it again? Gizoria? Gizor? Yeah.
Geyseriza.
Geyseriza. Okay, that sounds fun. In this iris family, the Geyseriza inequalis, which is a bit weedy as it not only seeds itself about, but also has tiny cormlets around the main corm that seems to make their way into a number of pots. If I ever reuse soil, I've sterilized.
Beautiful.
Finds their ways in pots if she has sterilized soil. So they get in there one way or another. He has joined the Erythronium heleniae. Probably not
Heleni.
pronounced. Say it again.
Heleni.
Heleni. The Geyseriza isn't replacing anything and soon will disappear, and sometimes makes for interesting contrast with other bulbs. And so this one is endemic to, was it Sonoma Coast or St. Helena?
St. Helena, yeah, that's up in Sonoma.
Yeah, that would be worth going to track down. It's gorgeous. And then she has a Mascari. Macrocarpum is another Mediterranean species that is wonderfully fragrant. It needs a very deep pot, which is always good to know when it has little special needs, and spends time in and out of my greenhouse getting extra heat in summer when dormant. And if we have days and days of rain, I sometimes move it to give it shelter.
I grew this one for quite a few years in the garden in the ground, and it was great. But I think I put too many plants in that garden and it ate this up.
Oh.
So I don't have it anymore. It makes me sad.
I always want to smell things when there's fragrance.
The fragrance was just unbelievable.
Really? Okay.
Yes, very
Probably-
sweet. It was stunning.
Probably good to put in a pot because then you stick it up to your nose. You don't have to get on your hands and knees. I mean, you don't have to.
I was younger then. I'm older than now.
Pots then. And then Erica species from South Africa. Finally, in 99 and 2000, I grew a lot of Erica seeds from the South Africa, from Kirstenbach and Silver Hill seeds. Although not all of the seed germinated, a lot did. And I was successful getting a number of species to live long enough to flower. Although some of them eventually died, I still have a lot of them, and now many volunteers from some of the most successful species as well. They must like my low nutrient decomposed sandstone soil and my climate. I still have one plant of Erica walkeria. It is a Western Cape species that flowers in the spring with red to pink to white star-like flowers. It is in flower at the moment. many of the species flower a long time, and since they flower at different times of the year, I often have them in flower. So Richard Starkison has this unknown bromeliad, and I think I have the same thing because he said the flower on the right, which is mine, is the same one. And then I think mine came from Kristen's garden when she brought some plants to
Yeah.
California.
And don't ask me what it is because I never remember. But I got mine originally from David Fikes, who brought it to the Cal Hort meeting. And he told me I couldn't have, it made no sense for me to take it because it wouldn't survive. And I said, well, can I try? And he said, yes. And the first couple of years it suffered from the cold because we got down to 18 regularly. But now it just blooms all winter.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have either idea on names or?
I sometimes know it, but right. It's an acmea, I can tell you that.
Okay, I was thinking that would be the case.
I can tell you, I just can't tell you the species name, but it's definitely an acmea.
Oh, I was hoping David Fikes would be here because he would know.
Yeah, of course he would.
I love growing the bromeliads in the garden because they're so easy to take care of. They'll, if you forget to water them, they're okay. If you water them, they're great.
And the other part is the gophers don't eat the bromeliads for the most part. The deer don't eat the bromeliads. I mean, we should be growing bromeliads. They like root-bound soils. They can handle cool or hot. They're really amazing.
Richard, you have a whole hillside.
Yeah, well, this is just the hillside above there's a wall with a hedge and a flowering vine on the wall, and this is just above it. And I didn't plant all of these. They came with the house when I bought it. So, but they've been spreading quite a bit since I moved in, and they seed around, so they're appearing. I've only been here for a couple of years, and now they're appearing in pots and along the paths and things like that. And there's a couple of varieties, a couple of colors, and I like having them there. We do deadhead them, so we got more of them. So
They're
nice.
beautiful.
And they're coming out with all sorts of, I'm not sure if they're hybrids, if they're sports, if they're selections.
yeah, I have no idea.
Bushy ones. Anybody
I
have any
assume
background?
they're cross-pollinating and hybridizing.
I mean, in the trade, they're having all sorts of new varieties that are just little bushy flower machines. Does anybody know anything about those?
Other than I bought a few. No.
Okay. And then Janet.
Okay, I just wanted to show this shrub because I've been enjoying it for over 30 years, and I got it from Cal Hort. I think I got it from one of their plant exchanges where, that was one of the plants they gave away for a ticket on a night where the raffle is back when they were meeting in the Cal Academy of Sciences. So
That's been a while
ago. But it started out it got to be probably at least a 4-foot shrub in the middle of my yard. And then it's kind of open and long sprays its habit. And it got bigger than I wanted in that spot, but it also sent out babies next to it. So I moved a couple of babies over near my fence, and that's what you're seeing in bloom here. It's pretty easy to go. It has, as it says there, heat and drought tolerance, very showy flowers in the spring, and goes deciduous in the wintertime, but I don't mind that. I like a little change in my yard. So
Is it kind of an open airy kind of vase shape or?
yeah, it is kind of open air. It
Cascading.
has sprays that kind of spread out. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, very pretty. The pure bright flowers always contrast nicely in a garden.
Yeah, it's a nice little beckoning of spring because it's one of the early things to bloom. It's blooming the same time as a lilac I have near it. So
Oh, nice.
Is it scented at all?
no, it's not scented.
Okay, it's got enough going.
Yeah, it's got enough going. It's just showy, not scented.
Okay,
But
so you're
really
gonna,
super easy to grow. And
how
very
fast does it grow? You said it wasn't very fast.
well, I think I moved it to the spot you see it in. That's about a 4-foot fence. And it's been there 4 or 5 years. So
Okay. Not bad. Fills in pretty quickly then.
yeah, it fills in pretty quickly.
Okay, so Charlotte had this mystery plant that she dug up.
Yeah, it has longer leaves than this, but at first I thought it might be like one of those skinny cordylines, but then I'm wondering if it's pampas grass, but I'm not sure. But anyway,
Is it a
Um,
flat plate of leaves coming out? It looks like it by your picture. Or is it
yeah, yeah.
symmetrical all around?
And then the bottom is kind of like this pointy white thing there, where the underneath of
tuber?
it. I consider it a weed, but I'm just curious what it was.
Anybody have any experience with that? Okay, another one for the mystery. Yeah, it looks like the leaf is flat, and you're up close.
Yeah, and it had slight razory edges.
I wonder if it might be pampas grass. It's pretty broad leaf for that, but maybe they start out that way.
It's hard to find information of this state of the plant. They
Mhm.
want to show you the flower, but
Yeah.
I'm not waiting until the flower comes.
Put in a little pot and report back.
I think it's in the compost bin now.
Oh, okay. Jeff, you're on.
Okay. So just the other day took a nice walk through the botanical garden, and although the botanical garden is endlessly flogging the magnolias, there's other good things going on. This was a peony that's in bloom. I did try to figure out what it was. Their label for it just says it is a hybrid. They apparently don't know what it is. It's been in their garden since 2002, so it's about a 5-foot high arboreal type, and it is 23, 24 years old. So a very mature plant and in full bloom, as you can see. The closest thing I could find doing an image search on the web was that this is possibly a very, very close relative to rocky eye, peony rocky eye. So just beautiful and in full bloom. So if you go over there, you'll see it.
Did you stick your nose in it? Is it fragrant?
I didn't notice a fragrance, no. And also fully leafed out is the California buckeye that's in their California garden. It is looking spectacular, and the ground underneath it is fully green as a result of our nice spring rains. So it's just a beautiful plant, and I just took a picture of it. So there it is. And this is a terrific begonia. They've planted a nice patch of begonias begonia fusca in particular, in the Mesoamerican garden, cloud forest garden. And this one is intriguing to me because although I have fusca in my yard, in my garden, this one has a very nice variegation on its leaves, as you can see in the right-hand photo. With it's just beautiful and quite different from the more solid green of the fusca example that I have in my garden. So it's just a wonderful place to wander through and see about a dozen plants all in one place with these very large 2-foot wide leaves. It's a terrific plant. It puts up these flower inflorescences. The stalk is about 4 feet high. So just a beautiful plant.
Wow. Do you think so is fusca supposed to be solid green?
That has been in all other examples except for these. So I don't know what accounts for this other than perhaps natural variability.
I was wondering if it was maybe a sport or a virus, or if it was possibly a nutrient thing. Very pretty.
Yeah, it is. So if it's coming from a disease or from malnutrition, let's keep it up. And here is a nice discovery I made up at this is above the moon viewing garden. So the path that runs directly above the moon viewing garden, the paved ADA path, this is at the foot of a very large magnolia tree. It's number 11 on their magnolia tree map. So this is Begonia longifolia, which according to the book that I have by Mark Tibbett is the most widely distributed begonia in the world, ranging from the foothills of the Himalayas all the way out to the islands of Indonesia. And so this plant is quite large. I'm not sure if you included it in another picture. There it is. So here you can see using my hand for scale how broad the stems are for this plant, and just beautiful, robust, very bushy plant. And I had never noticed it before. It's clearly been there for a long time. There's no tag on it, so I had to look it up through their database. But so I don't know how long it's been growing there, but as a result of being surrounded by impressive magnolias that make you look up, I had never noticed it at my feet, as it were, even though it's 5 feet high, 4 feet wide, and a very large example of this particular plant. So just another really nice begonia in the garden.
It's trying to get your attention, right?
Absolutely. It tried for years. It finally worked.
The stem is pleasing on the eye too.
Yeah. And so this is caught my eye. I have an example of Dacilarian longicium in my yard that was actually put into my hands by the former curator, the retired curator. But this example, mine is not yet blooming, but this one is clearly blooming just about every year. It's putting up a robust flower stalk. And this is the beginning of this year's flower stalk with this. It kind of reminded me of Bride of Frankenstein with these swirly, squiggly leaves that are coming up. Very beautiful and happening right now.
What does the flower stalk look like?
Once it fully blooms, once it fully goes up, the flower stalk is very reminiscent of a yucca.
Okay.
Yeah, so several feet, more than several feet, like maybe as much as 10 feet high, with the flowers up at the, if I'm recalling correctly, the upper half of it.
Oh, neat. And so it's just kind of doing these ragged leaves as it's getting ready to flower, huh?
I guess. I've never seen this before, so it was just really quite striking. This example is right immediately next to the succulent bed, the succulent garden in there. So it's underneath the, or right nearby to the monkey hand tree that's there. And this, they got some puya that is blooming, also near the succulent garden, right, just slightly closer to their not yet open nursery. And so on the right, you can see the blooms. On the left, you can see its proximity to this the dragon tree there. Just a beautiful. I'm using a macro lens to bring it in close enough to see the blooms. You can't really get very close to it the way you can in the the Berkeley Botanical Garden, where they've got some puya that are much closer to the ground, and you can walk right up to and see these beautiful green flowers. But this is just nice to see in San Francisco.
Yeah, we saw this in Chile, and Bart had said that these little kind of stem flower or stems on the flower things are for birds to perch onto.
Convenient. It's like having a cup holder.
Yeah, exactly. Kathy Anberg, are you there still? Janet, I think you talked Kathy.
I talked Kathy into putting this up. Yes, it's a gorgeous tree in her front yard. And it's looking really, really nice now. So
she says it's 35 years plus old and just started bloom last week. Neighbor loves it. Bees love it. And so do I. It gets monthly water during the dry season. And I can't read if there's anything else back
there's
there.
occasional fire blight, but never very bad.
That's right. Okay. Let's see what Daisy has. Well, she has her Edgeworthia crispa akibono. And this is a deciduous shrub that has usually fragrant flowers. Is that correct?
Yes, they are fragrant.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a gorgeous specimen.
And then she has fuchsia here, which again, I can't read it.
First success. It's a hybrid between Fuchsia paniculata and Fuchsia splendens.
And then her arum, which is kind of interesting what she said about that. Erissima ringers, Japanese cobra lily. Plants are one sex, dioecious, but can change sex to monoecious. And they're fly pollinated, which of course, a lot of these have that awful smell to attract the flies. But this one has a beautiful striped cobra top there. And then she has obviously a couple of epimediums. And they like dappled sunlight or shade, and protection from a hot afternoon sun. And I was going to ask her, I saw that in Seattle, Times says they're deer resistant and thrive in dry shade. Their leaves could be cut to the ground in late winter before the flower stalks emerge, kind of like Beryl's fern there. But unfortunately, if I can't talk to Daisy, I don't know if that's true or not as far as the dry shade. Anybody else have any experience with growing the epimediums? She's a little hotter in Sacramento as well, so that might be a little bit different than here. Anybody?
No experience.
Okay.
I had tried in the past, but they don't like me.
Did they not last? Did they kind of fizzle out or what'd they do?
Yeah, they didn't do much, and I wasn't giving them much water, so I think they want a little.
Yeah, probably so. I would assume they would like a nice lush soil too, but
Yeah,
that's just my assumption there.
yeah.
I'm in Lake Oswego, and of course, it's different, but they do grow in dry shade, and they're quite a weed.
Okay.
Yeah, my neighbor just took a hedge clipper and went right on over them.
How tall did they get for your space, Lorena?
Maybe 12 inches or so. I've never really measured them. But it's right by my fence, and she just loves them. People love them up here.
Well, they sound like they do well. That's why I said I quoted that from the Seattle Times. So I'm not sure how they do down here, but evidently they're thriving in Sacramento too.
Yeah. Gamble Gardens has a nice patch of it, and it is in pretty deep shade.
She doesn't water them at all in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just saw some up at Betsy Klebich's old garden, and up there they get a little bit more sun, but again, I don't think they get much water. And they grow about a foot high. You're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Lorena's right.
Yeah.
She did the hedge clippers. That's why I was asking. Probably to cut down the foliage in the wintertime. Okay. And then she has this weirdo, interesting plant. And I think we saw this one. She had her garden on tour last summer too. Polygonatum kingianum variety, Kingianum Bellagio. And it has leaves that tend to grab on, the ends are moved to grab onto items. And she says it goes up their fence and up to her neighbor's fence, and then 5 to 9 feet tall they'll get. And then they get these little kind of coral and green little flowers, dangling flowers. Really pretty with the sun coming through them. Anybody else have experience growing these guys? Interesting plant. And then the Heuchera maxima, which mine have really done really well this year with all the water. They're really lush. Usually they've never really gotten filled in until this last couple of years because they really all liked all that winter rain. And they are beautiful right now with little dainty flowers up there. So here's the save the date. So Saturday, May 25th, I mentioned John Kaplan is opening up his garden. I think it's up in Oakland Hills up in Piedmont, and it has a beautiful garden. He just had it's a rock garden. Both Kiamara and Walker are helping him develop it. So that should be fun. And I understand that the Rock Garden Society went last weekend or the weekend before. So I guess the rock garden's not quite done, but maybe by May it might be. So Mary, do you want to talk about his garden?
Yeah, his garden, he has a lot of elements to the garden. And oddly enough, right by the house, there's these box hedges that I don't think I've seen since I was in Europe. But there's a shaded part of the garden where he's got a lot of begonias growing and shaded by tallish trees. And the rock garden is still pretty rudimentary, but it gives you a sense for how to structure a rock garden. So it's really wonderful. And it's at the very down the hill, very, I think, back of his property. And he's got a lot of, he's got a number of things put in. And he will have, by the time we get there, he will have a lot more put in because Kiamara and Walker Young are both working on it. And there's other sections of the garden. Oh boy, I can't remember what was it. It's very extensive.
It's a big back side of the hill. So he's kind of up there.
Yeah.
On his garden goes kind of downwards with really big tall trees. And it's more formal by his house. His house is kind of a formal house, so it kind of suits
Yeah,
the house. And then it
Yeah,
goes
it's very
down to these
bizarre.
crossing paths. And I remember a lot of Redsmansia,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
angels, trumpets, and all different colors. And it's a very personal garden. So he's really involved in
Yeah.
the planting and
He's
design.
very much into the shade garden. And so that's what he primarily works on himself. But once they get the rock garden started, I'm sure he'll be maintaining that.
And then, of course, you heard about the May 26th. So that's Memorial Day weekend. And we got two things going on at once, but we'll get to
Oh.
rest on Monday, excuse me. So we'll have to figure out which field trip we want to go to. If anyone wants to stay on to discuss that we can maybe figure that out. And then if you want to host a coffee in the garden, we'd love to go visit people's gardens and get to know everybody. And Cal Hort will bring the coffee and the tea, and then everybody brings a little snack to eat, and we talk about plants and visit someone's garden. So please reach out if you or if somebody'd like to share their garden, that'd be great. Good night, and we'll see you next month, and happy gardening. Anybody?